Hello and welcome to the April 2014 energy reading. I'm Adrienne Elise. Well, April 2014 is power-packed with astrology. Just got a lot going on. We've got the fifth exact of the Pluto-Uranus square. We have two eclipses and we have a grand cardinal cross. And what flavors all of this is seen in an aspect that came at the end of March, and this is where Venus came into a square with Saturn. So Venus, our planet of love, and Saturn, our planet of work and duty. And what all of this is about is reconciling our lives to better support why we are really here, what we are really here to do. And it's getting to a point that those of us who are feeling like we're here for a certain reason, which is really all of us, are getting impatient, and with this Aries sun energy of this spring, beginning this spring month, there's some impatience and some energy of feeling like really wanting to move forward in your dreams and your visions and why you're really here. And so what April is about is clearing the way, shaking down the systems of our life to better support what in the world we are here for. And so on the 2nd of April, Mercury comes into a trine with Saturn. And Mercury is a messenger, and Mercury is a huge player this month. A lot of the aspects that are happening, Mercury is kind of triggering the cardinal cross, triggering the square between Pluto and Uranus. And so this is speaking to the messages that are ready to come through around what is our true work here? What is the point of our existence? Why did we choose? Were we interviewed and accepted to come amongst all the souls that wanted to be on earth at this time? Why are we here, and what should we do about it? And so the messenger is very much active, and it's interesting with these two eclipses because eclipses are about, first of all, eclipsing and then revealing the truth. Where has the truth been eclipsed in your life? What are the missing pieces that are going to allow you to start to activate the truth of who you are and start doing your real work here? And that real work has to do with having lots of fun and enjoying yourself, your passion. And so this is what's reconciling. And we can use this Aries energy this month, this energy of the child. It's getting very, very triggered, of the self, to release those inner shadows of the programming that we learned in childhood, of society, the limitations, the lack and depravity that's no longer true for us as we move into our new world. And so we're having a shakedown this month in April to release all of these shadow concepts that are keeping us from leaping forward into the life of our dreams. And so if you can keep that in mind and keep that childlike, fun self, that enthusiasm and self-forgiveness that comes from this early childhood work, and love ourselves through this transition, and know that everything that is happening to us is about getting us closer to the life of our dreams. And so with this fifth exact of Pluto-Uranus square, we're having this shakedown. We have the Aries is getting very activated because we've got the sun in Aries, and we've got also Mercury crossing over, and this Uranus in Aries. And so really powerfully activating this revolution of the self. And what we're finding is that we might not even know. Okay, so hey, maybe we do have some sort of purpose and destiny in being on the planet at this time, but we might have no idea what that is. And so part of this this Uranus and Aries and square with Pluto is urging us to come to an understanding about who we really are. We're meeting ourselves for the first time, and feel very much like the rug's been pulled out from under you, because your identity of who you have seen yourself is actually not really true. It's based on the false paradigms of the old world, and we're moving into the new world, so we have to figure out who we are. And that Uranus and Aries coming to this exact square with a grand cardinal cross at the same time, and also the same day that Pluto goes retrograde. And so we're having this shakedown. And then the Pluto is in Capricorn, the sign of our structures, and Pluto is is about disillusion, about breaking down, about the true source of power, understanding. So we're having an opportunity to have a breakdown in what in the past has made us feel powerful and in control, and so that we can have an opportunity for this new heart space, for this new understanding, this forgiveness of the shadow, this self-acceptance, this self-love to come in. And so this is the fifth exact of these planets over a 3-year period. And the fifth I associate with the fifth chakra, major chakras, that's the throat. So we're coming to expression. We've been doing deep inner work, letting our lives adjust to these changes. And now it's time to come out in the world with the expression of what that means. And so that can be a little bit of a tumultuous energy, and people are feeling it. There's that energy of what is this shaking, what all these little earthquakes. It is time, people, to shake down the shadow energy. That's what's happening. We are dismantling the false belief systems that we have been in our collective identity. Now that's an interesting thing, because Uranus is the ruler of Aquarius, which has a lot to do with the collective energy. And so we're being asked to reevaluate our collective identity as well. And there's tons of support for this work this month. And so if you can just get on board with the April's a Shakedown, and you might have a whole different life ahead of you as you move into May, a whole different vision, new information, new direction. It will help you to just be with these shifts, be with the changes, listen to the messages, stay open, and stay playful with it. So we have had Mars went retrograde last month, and that will be retrograde until mid-May, and that's in Libra. And so this is coming into the Grand Cardinal Cross here at the middle of the month. And so Mars is a big player. Mars, our fighter planet, directly opposite this Uranus in Aries. So this fight for the self, for the truth of the identity, to release that inner child, to allow ourselves to start having fun again. And that's coming up against this retrograde fight. Our forward motion is retrograde in Libra, which is the harmonizer, relationships. So it may be relationships that are feeling this shakedown, the relationships that aren't serving us, or have completed their course in our evolution. But it's also the relationships that are going to bring us the support that we need. Now, part of this is what's the harmonizing part of the astrology of April 2014 is this energy that we are all in this together. So Saturn is retrograde. Our big moving planets, as Pluto joins Saturn this month in retrograde, are all of our big moving planets except Jupiter, that went direct last month, are retrograde. And so we're having a rehash, going over these shadow parts of ourselves. We made it through the Saturn retrograde in Scorpio, and now we're going back into that territory. But we're going back into that territory with the gift of the collective unconscious of this Pisces energy. And the gift of that Pisces energy, as Venus comes into Pisces and pretty much stays there for this whole month. And Venus is our planet of love. And so we're learning to love the good parts about the Piscean age. And we're, again, using this time to assimilate these changes into our new world. What does it mean to be in the age of Aquarius? What is our role in New Earth? What in the heck, why am I even here on the planet? And so this Pisces energy of Venus and Pisces is helping us see that collectiveness, this water energy, and seeing that we're not alone. We're all in this together. And part of facing the shadow is recognizing that, we chose it for ourselves. As much as we've been interfered with, in the whole collective evolution of things, humanity has a consciousness. And we are coming into our individual consciousness and are taking responsibility. And when you open your consciousness, you inevitably have to come to the fact that, oh my gosh, I chose this for myself on some level. I chose this. On some level, humanity, we chose to go to the deepest, darkest depths. Why did we do that? We chose that so that we can now set ourselves free to be our God self, to incarnate, to forgive ourselves completely, and let our divine nature come in and incarnate. And that's what this age is all about. And so that Pisces energy is allowing us to see, oh, okay, I'm not the only one. We are all in this together. When we're all off in the corner facing the shadow alone, that's very painful. But when we come back together and we say, we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, and we say, wow, you know, I'm kind of going through it here. You know, I'm looking at some deep, dark stuff, and it's not very fun. And oh my gosh, you are too. And how can we support each other? So our relationships are bringing the harmonizing factor. And so opening up to talk to people, some of us, what we're doing is we're going back and forth between these different planetary energies. And so we're visiting the higher dimensions, and then you can kind of get sucked back into the lower frequencies. And that's where we have this opportunity for the shadow to come up and be released. It's not coming up just to hassle us. It's coming up for a reason. So we see this yuck coming up in our lives, but we don't see the light, the incredible light that's pushing it up to the surface. And so when we can do that, when we can go and talk to the people around us and reach out and be vulnerable and receive ourselves as in that shadow, that's the healing. And so it's these relationships reaching out. Some of us are up on the higher frequencies, some are down and lower, and we can help each other with where we're at. And because what we've decided to do in this planetary evolution has never been done before. We have no idea what is going to happen, and that's a beautiful thing. We are creating it. We've never before changed consciousness levels in a body with our consciousness. This is our God training. We are becoming divine here on a planet in a body with our consciousness and full knowledge of that. And then we can start creating this reality, this new earth. So this month is about the shakedown that's going to get us to that point. And so embracing these changes with self-acceptance and allowing yourself to be vulnerable, to play, to have fun with it, and to use that Pisces energy also to visualize that collective consciousness. So we're all going together. That's what we've decided. And so it's time to figure out what that is. We need to step up and create this world. We need to bring forward our gifts that we have and stop keeping them inside and judging them. And so April is how we get there. So we talked about Pluto going retrograde and joining Saturn. And so it's interesting because Pluto is in Saturn's sign and Saturn is in Pluto's sign. And so we have here this disillusion, this shadow, this coming to the truth, this death, birth, rebirth cycle, and then our structures and our duty. And so that's this shakedown, and that both of these planets retrograde is really giving us an opportunity to go into those places, to admit where our structures aren't supporting us anymore, and to let them go and rebuild new, open to the new. But it's interesting because these big planets going retrograde is actually giving a lot of oomph to Jupiter, which went direct at the beginning of March. And so Jupiter is in Cancer, the sign of the home, the sign of Mother Earth, the sign of nurturing and security and support. And so Jupiter's having this oomph. It's giving us more of that energy towards the dreaming and the visioning. And Jupiter is a key player as well in this Grand Cardinal Cross. And so if we can kind of tap into that Jupiter energy, it's expansive, it's the dreamer, it's looking above and beyond, at the same time as this being in the sign of home and family and security and Mother Earth and nurturing. And so how we get to our dreams is that we nurture ourselves through these changes. We love ourselves. We come back to forgiveness for all that we've put ourselves through many lifetimes, and all we put the earth through. And so we have to, it's the Jupiter in Cancer is really pushing us into a new place as it moves back into a forward direction and comes into this Grand Cardinal Cross. And it's expanding our nurturing. And the first place that needs to expand is the self-forgiveness for the shadow. The self-forgiveness for needing to go to the depths of the darkest places that humanity could possibly go. Because guess what? If one of us went there, we all went there. And so it's time to say no more. We've had enough. We can now, it's hard to look at it if you're not willing to forgive yourself for it. So this Jupiter and Cancer energy is helping us to love ourselves and nurture ourselves. And that will be greatly supported in the later part of April as the Sun moves into Taurus. And also Mercury moves into Taurus. And that will be a energy of allowing ourselves permission to nurture ourselves through these experiences. And so it'll be kind of like a breath. If we can just really pay attention, face whatever comes up, it'll go fast, these things that are coming up, because April is such a shakedown month. And so just kind of being like, oh, okay, here it goes. I'm going into the shadow. It's right there. I can't hide from it anymore. So if you've gone through this last few years without major changes in your life, now is when they're going to start happening. And so that Pluto and Uranus square, Uranus is lightning fast change, and Pluto is that dissolution and breaking down in the planet of structures. And so we're radically and quickly changing, like lightning fast, changing our identity in our collective and in our individuality in order to move into this new age. And it's interesting because the Piscean age was based on conformity. So you were safe if you conformed to the structures of the religious belief systems in society and the authoritarian energies. That's how you would stay safe, was through conformity. In order to stay safe and surviving now in this new world, to keep our planet, it's the total opposite. It's a radical, we're being called to be radically, authentically ourselves. Because that is how we bring God to the planet, is through our individual divine spark, our creative spark that nobody else can express except for us. So if we're here for a certain reason, that is why. And so this reconciling, this breaking down of the old structures, the shadow paradigm, is about making way for new structures, new beliefs. And inherently, this Jupiter in Cancer is helping us because it's seeing this big, expansive dream, helping us dream about what Mother Earth can be, what we can be together with Mother Earth as we come into one organism in this new Earth, and that Mother Earth can take her rightful place back in the evolution of this universe and this galaxy and be the Eden star that she's meant to be. New Earth is incredibly abundant. We have a never-ending amount of material in the universe, in the omniverse, to create from. But the structures that have wanted to keep us from evolving, this shadow energy, the shadow matrix of false beliefs, it's like a construct. It's like a house that someone built around you, and you're waking up to see that this is not your house anymore. And so the way we get rid of the shadow matrix, the financial tyranny, the control over our lives and our freedom and our spirituality and our expression to take this to the next level, is we dismantle that right here. Right here, we dismantle the shadow within our lives. And so April's bringing that to the foreground. And when we get on board and we say, okay, I'm not going to be scared of this anymore, because you know what, we're all in this together, and my vulnerability is my strength, and I'm going to just look at the shadow, I'm going to move right through it because it's not the truth of me anymore. And so then that gives us the power to start creating the truth of who we are. And everything is in support of that. And so this is the month where you can decide that the universe is working with you rather than against you. And it's interesting. It's like, oh, April 2014, whoa, it's really heavy. There's lots of stuff going on, and a lot of people go to the place of like earth catastrophes or earthquakes. It's like, yeah, guess what? We're having earthquakes, but the major earthquakes we're having are here in our own lives. We are changing our structure, our identity, so that Mother Earth doesn't have to go through that catastrophe. And so when you feel these intense energies, know you're working on the collective, that we're all in this together, and we're keeping ourselves safe by creating in each moment a new reality. And so the core difference between the old reality and the new reality is lack and depravity and abundance. And so it's up to us individually to start living the truth of abundance in our cellular structure, in our lives, as we face the shadow and open up to what's possible for us. And we're carving the way for the rest of humanity to come along with us. So it's big work, but it's supposed to be fun. We're supposed to enjoy ourselves while we're doing it. It's our passion that we're expressing. It's our dreams that are going to be the healing and the new world. And that's where that self-nurturing comes in, and nurturing on a grand scale of with that energy of Jupiter in Cancer. So at the middle of the month is when all of this kind of goes down. And it's interesting if we look at just the 15th. So this is tax day, and this is the first eclipse. It's on the full moon, and it's also Passover. So the interesting thing about this eclipse and the full moon landing on Passover on tax day, and Passover is a holiday celebrating emancipation of the Israelites freeing themselves from ancient Egypt and the slavery of ancient Egypt. So this is really interesting because we're having we can't hide anymore from this financial tyranny that we've been allowing to go on. There's going to be some shakedown there. So the shakedown, we may have some things revealed about what's truly going on in the financial structures, but also in our life, taking back our freedom, taking back our abundance. So when we do that, when we start creating the life of our dreams from what is inside of us, from our hopes, dreams, and visions, and as this divine spark, that is how we free ourselves from this financial slavery. And so it's really interesting, this eclipse, the first eclipse, and this full moon falling on that day, because it says a lot about the truth of the shadow matrix, what we've been trying to work against. And the time has changed now with that Mars retrograde in Libra. Mars is our fighter planet, and it's retrograde in the sign of harmony and justice and peace. And so we're being called to have a different kind of fight. And so the different fight is this no longer fighting. The more I go and fight the system right now, the more I feed the system. And so that Aquarian energy is this innovator, and especially in that cardinal sign of Aries, and the sun's there right now, and it's like it's time for a new start, people. Something new, create something new, stop fighting the old. And so maybe that's a metaphor too for our personal lives, when we can stop fighting that inner shadow and just move through it and just be like, okay, fine, I see you, but I don't identify with you anymore. And then we can start recreating our life. So it's interesting because that day has a lot of energy. 2 days before that, on the 13th is Palm Sunday. So we have a lot of these religious holidays coming together this year, and that's saying something about no matter what your beliefs are, as we reconcile that Piscean age, that time of conformity, and that's where our security was, we're saying, oh, okay, I don't care what your beliefs are. I don't care what my beliefs are. We are all in this together, people. We are all earthlings, and we've got to figure some shit out to make this happen for us, to make this Eden star, to allow the magic of Earth to come back home. And that comes in us having the strength and determination, and also the ability to love ourselves and give ourselves permission to play and dream and create together. But it's interesting because that Palm Sunday, there's no aspects. This hardly ever happens. There's just not one aspect, meaning that the angular relationships between the planets, there's nothing there. The next day, the 14th, there's a shit ton of aspects, and a lot of these have to do with Mercury the messenger, and this is where Mercury starts triggering that grand cardinal cross. Now this means that 4 planets, and there's actually more because they're coming together, like Mercury is joining with that Uranus energy, and so basically cardinal signs are the starters. So people who have like their sun in a cardinal sign, they're instigators. They are good at starting projects. They're visionaries. They have the umph to kind of get things rolling. And so this grand cardinal cross is really about that. It's like, okay, you guys, time for the Aquarian age, time for new earth. We have arrived. It's time to that coming exactly. We have had all of these squares, and we've had the cardinal cross too last summer, but we have not had them together at the same time, the same degree. Now look at this. It's in 4/14, the month, the 4th month, and the 14th, 2014. Now it's on the 14th. So it's 4/14/14. We have to really look at these numbers. And 4 is about structure and home, that energy, the Cancer, the sign of Cancer, where Jupiter is right now. The 1 is about rebirth and new birth and new directions. And so we have the 1, we have the 4. Now, if you add those together, you get 5 in numerology, and 5 is the spoke on the wheel. So 4 is the structure. We've got the 4 walls. We've got it in reality. We know what we're doing here now. We know that shadow matrix is no longer serving us, and we're not going to go. We can choose to keep going that way, but we know we're not going to survive doing it. And so this is where we really move forward. So we're having this massive kind of still point in these eclipses, this grand cardinal cross, all these planets, these bigger planets in retrograde, and we're just kind of being like, whoa, okay. When you change directions, there's a moment where you don't know where you're going. There's a moment where it seems like you're at the end of the road. And so that's this April energy. And it's kind of like, do you want to keep playing this out? Do we want to keep playing out the shadow and the lack and the depravity and the oppression and the financial slavery? Or have we come to the end of this road and it's time to turn directions? And so that's kind of what's happening here in April 2014 as all of these things come together. And as much as there's a lot of gloom and doom predictions around this month, this is our turning point. This is a magical moment. If you can pay attention now, you can literally have that brand new life starting next month. And so just be with it. Be with this process. Be with this still point. And so that on the 14th is when Mars starts to trigger that grand cardinal cross. That's also the day that Pluto goes retrograde. And get this grand cardinal cross is happening at 14 degrees. So these planets in their cardinal signs are at 14 degrees. And so there's something really, really powerful about this number, the 1 and the 4 and the 5. It's time to start rolling. Put that spoke on the wheel, coming to the 5th chakra, expression of our new world. All the changes we've gone on within. It's fine to just go dream in your house in the corner or whatever, but it's time to come out into the world with it now. And when you come out into the world with your light, that's when you have to deal with the fear of judgment. And it was the fear of judgment in the Piscean age that we often got persecuted or killed for our beliefs. And so the shadow is getting reconciled. It has to fall away. And as soon as ironically, as soon as we stop fighting the shadow, that's when we can move through it and start to create something different. So your energy should be on things you want to create new instead of fighting the old. When you feel like you're stuck fighting the old beliefs, start working on something new. Start having fun. Start bringing in joyful energy. And that's going to be easier and easier as we get through these spring months. And so it's later in the month, around between the 20th and the 24th, that the grand cardinal cross comes together with this, basically that Jupiter in Cancer and Mars in Libra, Pluto and Uranus. So they're all in the cardinal signs, cardinal cross. And so that's interesting because on the 20th, we have Easter Sunday. So again, we're having all these holidays come together. Easter is originally a pagan holiday celebrating fertility and sexuality. And it's interesting that this is all coming, this breakdown of the shadow, because that was a lot of what was condemned. And then going back to ancient Egypt, it was sexuality that allowed us to ascend into the higher faculties of our higher consciousness, into the next dimension. So we have to set this part free. Our sexuality isn't the problem, it's the shadow, the energies of condemnation that have come along with it, the twisting and the distortion of our sexuality. So it's time to really set ourselves free on many levels. And that whole Piscean era, the downfall of that conformity, that condemnation, that persecution that came in the dark ages on the earth, and it's time to let all that go. That is facing your shame, knowing we all feel that way, and releasing it and setting free those power centers so that they can work with our higher chakras so we can create this new world. So Easter, and then, so it's pretty much the 4th to the 24th, and right in the middle there is Earth Day. And so it's these holidays coming together and saying, you know, whatever you want to believe, people, but we're all on Earth. What defines us, our identity, is that we're trying to save our planet so we still have a place to live and dream. And it's kind of like this 90-degree turn, this still point at where we're trying to change directions. It's kind of like, yeah, that way it's not going to work. This way we have some major possibilities of beauty and love and healing and a magical experience of this earth. And so this April is about each of us individually taking that choice. And sometimes that might be stuff breaking down. But the beautiful thing about it, with all these numerological and lining up of planets, lining up of how things are working, there's going to be magical happenings and synchronicities and information coming through. And so it's kind of like, yeah, well, that part of my life's falling apart, but gosh, I've had this cool thing happen that makes me feel okay about it all. Makes me feel guided. So when we get rid of this tyranny energy that the shadow is holding us down, working against us, and life is so hard and it's oppressive, then we can open up to that guidance that's waiting there, this incredible angelic force that wants to help us create this new world. But they can't do it until we get out of the gutter and stop condemning ourselves and release the past, face it, move on, forgive ourselves, love ourselves. That's when we can open up to this incredible light and love and help that's available to us in this new adventure ahead. And so on the 28th is when we have the second eclipse. This is in the new moon. And so on the 20th, on the 19th is when the sun moves into Taurus. And so that's where we're going to kind of have a shift here of kind of going through this, like, oh, this Aries and patience, like it's serving us, it's good, because we need to like demand our right, have a tantrum, demand our right to play and have fun and enjoy our life. What is the point for those of us that know we know we're all here for a reason, but for those of us who feel compelled to bring something forward, that now is the time. It's time to have that tantrum, to release the hold that our early childhood programming and societal and these energies of the shadow have on our life. Have that tantrum. Find that strength within to live your dreams, no matter what. And that is what's being called for. But then as we move on the 19th, the sun moves into Taurus. That's a very nurturing sign, a sign of self-love. It's a sign of abundance. And so we're going to have a lot more permission to really love ourselves and nurture ourselves through these changes. And so we're kind of going through this this like cross, this switch, this change, this going to the corner and deciding that you're not going to stand in the corner in darkness anymore. You're going to turn into the light. And then we can kind of come together in May and start to feel safer and nurture ourselves a little bit more and forgive ourselves and kind of tap into that collective. And this is interesting because at the beginning of May, Mercury, which is in will be coming directly across. Mercury moves into Taurus, and it will be coming directly across from that Saturn, making an opposition with Saturn in Scorpio. And so that Saturn retrograde going back over the yuck of this inner shadow and the dissolution that needs to happen in the structures of ourselves and in our life and that is kind of saying, hey, the messages that are coming are around how we nurture ourselves through this experience and love ourselves, forgive ourselves, and know that the truth of us is to be abundant, is to celebrate life, to have fun. We're no longer your slaves. This has gone on for far too long. And it's kind of like that whole energy of emancipation, of Passover, and how spring, these celebrations of spring were about making it through the winter. Well, guess what? We need to celebrate making it through the dark yuga, which was like thousands of years of really scary stuff that was happening on the planet. And we were a part of it. We were playing it out, we were instigating it, we were playing the cards. It's like, as long as the shadow wants to play out, if we keep playing it out, it can be here. And the minute we say no more, that's not the truth of us in our individual selves, which is why this revolutionary change, we're not seeing big so much of the big protests and people coming together like that. This is the revolution of the self. We each decide. And when you decide to be your own free energy, to take your power back from the shadow, to live your dreams, to be happy in your daily life, that's when then we're going to be able to open up to that collective, the other people that are on this path, your soul team, your guidance coming to help you and support you in creating this dream earth, this new earth. And it's kind of our only choice at this corner. Like I said, we just have the old. And who wants to even, life is painful in that existence. When we're going back and forth between these dimensional realities, when we get stuck down in that, it hurts. It hurts to live. We cannot stay there. That's not, it's an ending road. There's nowhere to go there. So we must turn the corner. And so April is about getting to the corner first, so you can change directions. And when you can trust and see the alignments, open up to that guidance and feel the support that you're not alone, we're all in this together. And that is going to be what helps you move into this next place. All of us move into this next place of possibility, of abundance, of creating our life, of our dreams. We have support. We are not alone. And so thank you so much for listening to the forecast, and enjoy this month of April. Just kind of try to be an observer in this shakedown and know that we're creating, it's like the crack of this shell that has been around us of limitation is breaking down. And that's what this shakedown is about. It's about magic that's behind it, which is why there's so many beautiful synchronicities. And so have your new birth, ground yourself in the structure that we're all in this together, that we all love the earth, we all want to be here and create magic, and then put that spoke on the wheel and start to move forward in your life starting in May. So blessings on your journey, and I look forward to seeing you next month.